So what would be a big hurdle that you hit in this setting up this transitioning of ownership? What was probably the toughest thing?
I think just getting started. I mean, taking that first step to call you guys and say, come down and help, give us some advice on where to go. I mean, that's taking that, nobody wants to talk about,
our demise.
Their demise.
You have to talk about that. I mean, we make a joke out of it, and we try to, lighten it up by it's the meeting of our demise, and people have to look at that. They have to be serious,
For me, Chris, and Pat to be able to grow as a farm, we couldn't do it on an individual basis. We had to form something, so that's why Chris said we formed the LLC. At that point, that was the turning point of the farm. I'd say not ownership, but it was the way it was running.
I mean, we didn't have that big of a problem in talking about, because we had bought the business already. But I have a lot of friends where dad doesn't want to let go. He wants to be right in on top of everything, and so there's a little more tension there. And where dad still gives us his advice and yells at us and does everything that dads are supposed to do.
They don't listen
except, he didn't say, you can't go do this. This is why we separated the businesses, and now we can go out and flounder or, fly.
We've been very, very fortunate as we learned and grew up on the farm. Our parents let us take on responsibility, whether it be with the farm or with the excavating or whatever. It wasn't a situation where everything was done for us and we just kind of followed the orders and did it. We were allowed to try to succeed or to fail or whatever, and then you learn from that. That, I think, an abrupt, like you mentioned, an abrupt change, and I've seen it before sometimes, where it's always a loss when somebody is gone, but at least you've had those responsibilities already. It's not quite as abrupt in many different angles.
An extension offered a program for transferring the farm, and we attended that.
I personally, with George Hamilton, has come here oftentimes. Through the years he's been a real help, and he had talked to us. We quietly, he'd mentioned, what we have done, if we've done anything, and then he ultimately set up, I believe, the meeting with Mike Shibarasi, and they both came. And then Mike, of course, we'd met with him before, but that really got us going.
So using extension as sort of the third person, Sandy?
Yes, I would say. And it was a private meeting where we felt we could ask questions freely, and they really gave us some great options.
What were some of the goals in this preservation and transition and estate planning that you folks have as a family?
Well, we wanted to keep the farm whole. I didn't want to subdivide anything. I just wanted to keep what the core farm passed on. I wanted to keep it profitable, and I wanted to minimize the tax impact to my sons when this ultimately happens. And at this point, with Mike Shibarasi's help, we set up the Barrett Hill Farm LLC that took the business end of the operation away from Sandy and I, and also the equipment passed at that time to Barrett Hill Farm LLC. At this point, we're fine-tuning how the rest will pass. The proper timing, I'm not exactly sure yet, but there's no question that it will happen.
As you got into this, how did things transition from just family discussions to legal documentation? How did you make that transition?
Well, we talked to various and sundry people. The business that I own, I deal with a lot of lawyers, and so we talked to them about what they thought would be the best way to handle a transition, what would be best for the boys to set up, a corporation or the LLC or a partnership. And I think we all agreed that the LLC at that time was the way to go.
When did it start to go from just a family discussion to more legal documentation? When did it become more formal?
After the fire, I guess it was, I don't know, maybe it was 6 months or a year that we said we need to get somebody to help us set this all up. And I called Susan.
Withy.
Yes. Yes.
Suzanne Withy.
Yeah.
Suzanne Withy.
And she helped us.
She came up 2 or 3 times.
And then we worked with you,
yes.
with Bill Zweigbaum
right.
and
yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a team effort with Extension
Yeah.
and Farm Credit.
Yeah.
How much time of family discussion and planning versus the lawyer time? Was it mostly, how did that proportion out? Was there much lawyer time once you got things organized?
No. We met with her twice,
I
3
think-
times at the most.
I think twice we met
Twice, I
with
think.
them. She gave us a rust draft, and then we went back and changed it if we needed to, and then she just sent it to us.
As you were having these meetings with Extension and so forth, you had some of the informal meetings. When did you, or what was kind of the signal to make that break from the informal to getting into the legal? Did you have to get into some legal help, and how did that happen?
Yes, we did. After we met with Mike Shabrasi, and then we worked with the lawyer that we worked with Farm Credit, Joanne Craighead, and drafted up what we needed to do to make the LLC, the Barrett Hill Farm, into an LLC and change that generational transfer from mom and dad as far as the business aspects of it to myself and Beth, and then formation of an LLC. And that all happened. Like I say, once we decided we were going to do it, it did just kind of go just like that. It wasn't exceedingly complicated.
Ralph and I, the wills that we drafted 40 years ago were certainly outdated, and we're still in the process of revising those. Right?
What would be a hurdle that if you were going to cite one thing, it was maybe a little bit of a challenge?
Like you had said yesterday, just getting the ball rolling. Don't procrastinate. Don't think that you've got time when maybe you don't. I think that's happened to a lot of farms over the years where they thought they had time, the old generation passed on, and no paperwork was started. So don't wait, get started.
How did it go from just, kind of a seminar and a thought to being done by the family?
Well, like we mentioned, we discuss these things in the morning over coffee, in an evening over supper, or something like that. We're constantly talking about what direction we're going to go with the farm, what's going on, excuse me, with the excavating, what the family's basic goals are, what we're doing. As this was progressing, we just simply going down the list of what our priorities are, what is overwhelming us at the time, and we worked through these different things. This became the next thing, not so much on the list, but it made the most sense. It started to bring itself closer to the top of priorities, where this was something that we needed to address. We decided it was important, and so then once you mentioned a trigger. For us, once it clicked, we decided, okay, let's attack it and let's get this done. This is the new priority that we've got to address so that we can move on. And I think that's kind of how it happened.
So it became a farm project, just like getting the silo built or the barn built. Finally, estate planning and transitioning became a project.
Well,
yeah.
Nowhere near as much fun as the other projects.
Oh, yes.
No.